Hello and welcome back to the Troutman Pepper Lock Battery and Storage Podcast. I am your host, Bill Durasmo, partner at Troutman Pepper Lock. Today I am very pleased to have with me Shane McBee. Shane is the Vice President of Business Development at Invinity Energy Systems. Welcome to the program, Shane.
Hey, Bill. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Excellent. Well, Shane, why don't I give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and your company, Invinity, and some of the exciting things that your company is doing.
Absolutely. Thank you. Invinity is the disruptive innovator of non-lithium energy storage for our carbon neutral grid that we're all pushing to achieve by 2030 and beyond. We're a vanadium flow battery, a different chemistry. Of course, lithium being the incumbent that's been around for 20 and 30 years. Right now, we are headquartered in Motherwell, Scotland, and Bathgate, where our two main facilities are. We also have a facility in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and we have domestic stateside supply coming fourth quarter of this year. So as we grow our footprint, also the same as the domestic footprint, we'll have manufacturing in India as well. So right now, one of our things that we're most proud of is we've gone over 2,000 battery modules globally delivered, and we surpassed last week 9 gigawatt hours of dispatched cycled throughput, all of that with a 96.3% availability, which really shows the robustness of our chemistry. And not only the communities as well as the off-takers and utilities enjoy having an option to choose a non-lithium technology that does not degrade and has no possibility of thermal runaway. So several benefits to kind of go over today, but that's the gist of who Invinity is, a culmination of Avalon Battery and a merger with Red T, both about 50 years of experience combined and became Invinity in 2020. We are the global leader in proven vanadium flow battery technology.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. As you know, we've had vanadium flow batteries as a topic on some previous episodes. So we've got multiple people playing in the space, but I think you guys have a real good story to tell, real positive story to tell. So why don't we start out with the advantages of vanadium versus lithium ion? I think you quickly hit a couple of them there, but let's remind the audience of some of the fundamental differences if you use a vanadium flow battery chemistry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the way we like to think of vanadium, not only is its availability in the Earth's crust, this is a very robust metal on the periodic chart of the elements. The thing that makes vanadium so resilient is that it can exist inside the electrolyte in 4 different states of oxidation. So by keeping the technology itself, you've got pumps, pipes, and tanks, and then you've got a cell stack that sits on top. That's about 60% of your bill of materials. The other 40% is the vanadium electrolyte. The vanadium allows the electrolyte to exist in 4 different states of oxidation and never have calendar or cycle degradation. So truly, vanadium flow batteries are the workhorse of the non-lithium batteries on the market. They can cycle multiple cycles a day, giving them the ability to operate without thermal runaway and zero need for HVAC to keep them cool through the duration of the life of the battery. So vanadium, a lot different than lithium. Lithium's got its place. It's real good in those real tight durations and discharge durations. Vanadium's more your long duration storage that dispatches and discharges from 4 to 20 hours. Vanadium really sets as a technology, the flow battery is about 150 years old. Then you add the chemistry of vanadium and it's a 50-year-old technology. So much more proven than a lot of incumbents or other non-lithium technologies that are in the market. We've got dispatchable, proven assets that are already out in the field and out ahead of the curve a little bit in that aspect.
Well, let's talk about a couple of things that you said there. For the layman, why is vanadium superior to, say, lithium ion if you want a long duration solution? And so when we talk about a 2-hour battery, that's obviously a shorter duration. 4 hours a lot of what ends up being installed in the market right now, but that's still on the shorter end. But I think as procurers of storage solutions become more sophisticated and really look at what they need, long duration is going to be put into RFPs and that sort of thing, I think, with more prevalence. So maybe you could talk about why vanadium's a superior solution for long duration.
You touch on a good point, Bill. We like to say that the gap between ambition and execution is what defines the opportunity. And when we look at it that way, it's these procurement teams, they come up on an opportunity and they say, sometimes it might be the best fit for the use case to say, what's the cheapest battery I can make economic sense on day one. And on a vanadium flow battery, you're going to see a 35% premium over lithium, but we'd like to take that opportunity to really get in there as a consultative extension of our developer, of the utility, of the off-taker, and really show them and learn with them in lockstep over time what that looks like in terms of an asset that's a 30-year non-degrading annuity versus just a disposable asset that might need to be augmented at year 8 and again at year 13. Oftentimes, those savings that you feel you're going to save with that 30 to 35% premium on day one, they get eaten up in retooling the cathode, which you don't have to do in a vanadium flow battery. So there is no augmentation. Very resilient element inside the electrolyte because of the resiliency and the ability of vanadium to exist in those 4 different oxidative states without having any kind of, we can simply adjust this is kind of the chemistry geek in me. I'm a chemical engineer by degree, but we can adjust the valence of the V2, V3, V4, and V5 as they're existing outside of it. And by keeping the cell stack separated from the actual electrolyte tank, it gives us the ability to have a battery that is not only resilient, but non-degrading with no cycle throughput degradation and no calendar degradation. So this battery can run multiple times a day, allowing the off-taker to participate in a multitude of use cases, from grid resilience to arbitrage, merchant market service participation, as well as front of the meter, behind the meter, C&I grade applications. The data centers that we all are talking about that are coming online have intermittent generational smoothing requirements that vanadium flow battery is very good at, and I'm sure we'll touch on FlexBase here in a second. But that ability to do solar smoothing and peak shifting in the afternoon if they want to multi-cycle and kind of smooth out some cloud chop from PV generation on renewables in the morning, as well as microgrids. So it's while it might not be as dense as lithium, and you might have a 30 to 35% premium on day one, the life cycle cost, the levelized cost over the life cycle, we like to call that LCOS, is really where that procurement team really likes to learn how it works and what their economic erosion is over time of an incumbent system that you may have to go in and retool the cathodes, re-augment over time. We don't have that with the vanadium flow battery. You've got a resilient battery that does not degrade and can last 30 plus years with no thermal runaway, and then recycle at the end of life and have residual value in the reclamation of the vanadium as well.
You stole my thunder because I was going to try to sound smart by asking you about the levelized cost of storage, because I think that's the concept that you're getting at, right? If you compare the life of the asset, the capital cost over the 30-year life, for instance, and you're getting into more of a concept of the levelized cost of storage, and it sounds like that your vanadium product is going to have a lower levelized cost of storage. And you ran through a number of use cases for it. So when you were talking about things like solar smoothing, dealing with the intermittency of renewables, being able to cycle it multiple times over a short period of time, it starts to be more like a quick start generator, or a generator that can provide load following, those types of flexible uses. Maybe you could just talk about that if you are, again, if somebody's in the market to procure something that they need, maybe just speak about the flexibility of your battery, and then also the fact that it competes well when you look at the levelized cost of storage.
Great way of queuing that up. There's a structural tension that's created when we shift from dollars per kilowatt hour to actual life cycle value costs with an operationally proven technology. I think you're leaving a lot on the table, some of these procurement regimes, when we just think about dollars per kilowatt hour. We're not going to have the density of lithium from that. We also do not have any rare earths or conflict materials like cobalt. And some of those things, when you get to the end of life and you have to recycle those items, as well as the way vanadium might be mined and pulled and processed to go into the electrolyte versus lithium, all of those things weigh in. But it's important to think, if you can multi-cycle a battery and participate in additional revenue streams in the afternoon, a lithium counterpart can do that as well. But what happens is you take a 20-year asset and make it into a 10, because every cycle then degrades your warranty and the life cycle of the battery, or how much quicker you're going to get to retooling the augmentation of the cathode. And not having that certainly has to extrapolate out over time. Here's what you're going to save by not having to run HVAC for 30 years. Here's what you're going to save by not having to worry about fire suppression because we have no thermal runway. The operating and maintenance part of it is what, Bill, I think you're pointing to. These procurement folks really like to be able to say, we want to be able to have a workhorse of a battery come in, help us participate, show us how we can stack revenue streams, meet the PPA requirements for capacity credits that we get for our off-taker, and not have to worry about too much the maintaining cost of the battery. And that's really where Vanadium Flow shines the most.
You talked about the cycling issue, and I think the early adopters, say, for instance, in PJM with lithium-ion batteries, those batteries were being cycled in a way that wasn't optimal, put it that way. And so you saw the degradation of the actual cells, and the life of the batteries were diminished. So it's a real issue, and I think we've already seen it pretty clearly. But it sounds like you've got a better mousetrap in that regard. So that was good that you talked through that. I was going to switch gears, though, and talk about a specific use case. And why don't you tell me a little bit about the FlexBase? I'll run through it, and then you could explain what it all means. But the FlexBase 800 megawatt by 2 hour configuration that we talked about before we started the recording.
Yeah, this announcement just came out last week. We're very proud of the 2 years that the team has put in to get named in this award to move into the engineering phase. This is going to be, let's step back. So Laufenburg is the juncture between the apex right at Germany, France, and Switzerland. So there's a very large substation there that came to fruition in 1958, and this was going to be the European power grids kind of crossroads. And this battery now is going to, design part of it is you have a tank farm, not really in the basement, but going subterranean 25 meters. So you've got a 75-foot sarcophagus. The electrolyte tanks will be below grade, and then you'll have your tanks, your pumps, and your pipes above that, and then all the PCS equipment and inverters above that, and what basically looks like a Class A office building sitting above the ground. And it's Invinity's been selected by FlexBase to design the actual 1.5 gigawatt hour vanadium flow solution for this technology center in Laufenburg. We did a press release on this announcement last week. The battery is going to support an AI data center technology campus, as well as providing support to the European grid network. We were selected following a very in-depth process, which the assessment of all major non-lithium battery manufacturers globally, to move into the engineering phase. This will last through the end of this year and into 27, and then the fulfillment phase to commence from 27 onward. It's at 1.5 gigawatt hours with a stretch to 2.1 as an expansion. Engineering phase completion will be done in 27. So we're very pleased with it. This will be the largest vanadium flow battery in the world.
That is amazing. The largest vanadium flow battery in the world. Congratulations. And so what about taking that model here to the United States? Tell me about your activities on the ground here in the U.S. and what Invinity's plans are for this market.
The thing that makes the FlexBase design so neat is we talk about long duration storage. This is actually a 2 hour battery, and it shows the innovative powerhouse that is the superlative engineering minds at Invinity. Right now, we have the largest vanadium flow battery in Canada, Australia, the UK, and the US. Through complexity reduction has allowed us and our customers to operate these systems to specification through different pillars of excellence that we internally as a company and through our senior leadership have gotten real good at. So we've become a consultative extension of our developers and off-takers to have a pretty good footprint coming into America already. We've got some California Energy Commission projects as well as Department of Energy pilots that are up and running. The Viejas project that's in California is the largest vanadium flow battery in North America. And with domestic supply coming in fourth quarter of this year, we're ready to participate alongside all of our other non-lithium brothers that we want to get out and see be wildly successful, as well as lithium too. So I just think it's really good for us to get the market up to speed on vanadium flow battery being an additional arrow in their quiver. Lithium's been around a long time, certainly very good at what they do and constantly improving. We just want to be a non-lithium source that's provided when, say, a community decides for whatever reason they might not want to have lithium, or they want to have a proven technology that doesn't stand the chance of having any kind of thermal event in their local community. We want our developers to consider us as a part of that package.
Makes sense. And it's a fantastic story to tell. You have the largest vanadium flow battery in all these different countries. Well, what about your partnership with ABB and Gamesa with the Endurium model?
Yeah, the Endurium is our current generation. We did a launch on it in December of 24, and ABB Gamesa was a joint venture co-development partner of ours for Endurium. The thing that makes Endurium unique in its ability to be out in the market is a lot of times you deal with a lot of weight when you have electrolytes with a certain specific gravity, inability to stack. Endurium can stack when it gets out in the field. And we've got a union with a partnership with ABB that we can offer their PCS equipment through their inverters when we go out into the field with Endurium. But the thing that makes it neat, when you single stack it, you can go take 1 acre and get 43 megawatt hours. If you do a double stack, 86 up to 106 megawatt hours to an acre if you triple stack it, which is a pretty neat part of the design and the structural integrity of the actual container itself. But all of that joint venture co-development partnership was done through ABB Gamesa, and we're excited about that union going forward so that we can offer both DC and AC integrated solutions to our customers.
That sounds fantastic. It sounds like you've got a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of things moving forward. Well, tell them about yourself. Obviously, you're on the ground here in the United States. So how did you come to Invinity? And if companies are interested in doing business here in the United States, what do you want them to do? How do they work with you? How do they get in touch with you?
I'm a chemical engineer by degree, so I got the chemistry geek side of me that loves touching things. I've been in the energy hedging and arbitrage space with a Fortune 100 company prior to entering into renewables for probably 12 years, and then in the renewable space for the past 7. So non-lithium batteries is something that has really piqued my interest to be a part of what changes our grid. It's a big grid. There's a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of players that are going to participate in that. So www.invinity.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn, reach out there as well. And we would love to be a part of your project. We kind of look at it as a partnership. We're selling more of a journey that we're going to walk side by side with you to get to a finish line. And we're not going to bow out of your project until we have sight and visibility to completion as well. Another project that really, I enjoyed being a part of early on with my time that started here with Invinity is the largest European flow battery. It's called Copwood, and it's in East Sussex. We just got it delivered. It's 21 megawatt hours. We're excited to see sight and visibility to get it up and online next quarter, and that'll be the largest flow battery in the UK as well. So www.invinity.com is how you find us.
Sounds fantastic. You're being modest, by the way, because you also have your MBA. So you're not just an engineering background.
I did. Yeah. One of the things was funny at the time, Bill, when I got that, I had one daughter at the University of Florida. I lived in Palm Beach down there at the time. I had one daughter at the University of Florida, another one at Florida State, and I was getting my MBA at the University of Miami. So we didn't know football season if we were Seminoles, Gators, or Hurricanes half the time, but we knew we had all the educational facilities covered.
I love it. I love it. Well, Miami had a good run last year. They just ran into a buzzsaw with Indiana.
They sure did.
But we'll see how it goes this year. I think the ACC will be interesting. I went to law school at Wake Forest, so I think Wake Forest plays Miami this year.
I think so.
That will be a good game. We'll have to keep an eye on that.
It's all about the U, so be careful.
Well, I've got tickets to the Wake Forest Virginia game, so that one's closer to home here. I'll be looking forward to that around Halloween. But in any event, as far as the business is concerned, I mean, I think what I would say to the listeners out there, for the people who are involved at the state level, PSC, or things like NYSERDA, state procurement offices, think about the value of long duration storage. Lithium ion, 2-hour battery, 4-hour battery is great, but think about what your goals are. You're trying to do procurement efforts. Long duration is will be a really important tool going forward. For the utility market out there, for the utilities where you might have retiring generation, consider long duration storage, right, as a possible substitute. There are challenges with siting large generators. I know it's happening in certain parts of the country, but long duration storage could be something that you would consider if you're going out for an RFP for new resources. So just wanted to add that in there because I think, as you said, we get caught up with the cost per kilowatt or cost per kilowatt hour, and you have to look at what exactly it is that you're buying, because a long duration storage solution, especially when we're coming into an era where, we've seen over recent years, we've had these challenging events where it's a cold snap for 3 or 4 days. That's extreme. We had it even this past winter. And I know I lived through it here in the Mid-Atlantic. And that's what really challenges the grid, are these long events that happen over the course of a couple of days, where if you had added a 2-hour battery, a 4-hour battery, that's fine. It'll help for that period of time. But the grid, and talk to the grid operators like PJM or MISO, they'll tell you the real challenges come when it's that multi-day event. So in any event, that's my plug for long duration storage. And I think truly, from a societal perspective, I think it truly has an important place as we move forward here, that it's a solution that is going to need to be part of the package of solutions.
Bill, I'll tell you one story to share is I've got a colleague that owns a welding fab shop in Halstead, Kansas. They're in the Southwest Power Pool. That's their ISO. And he had received a curtailment notice where the fab shop isn't going to be able to weld or make trailers or cage ladders, whatever his thing is he's doing that day. On Tuesdays and Thursdays for the next 60 days, they're not going to have the electricity that they need for their welding from, say, 1 to 6 p.m. And that's a true indicator of curtailment. And then when he made the call to the mayor, and the mayor and I got on the phone together, and we thought, wow, this is really a true story of, you can't just shut the fab shop down for 5 and 6 hours every Tuesday and Thursday for the next 60 days. What would be a good solution for that? And we immediately thought, if you had a renewable asset, even if it were PV panels on the roof of the fab shop, and you stored that solar power in a battery, the fab shop could run on the battery during that curtailment. So there's a lot of pieces of it. Then you've got states like California where there's so much PV generation. Sometimes they'll have to dump 2 or 3 terawatts back onto the grid because they didn't have an off-taker. And that's a place where you think batteries would have really solved all that for California Energy Commission not to have all that surplus and yet no off-taker to deploy it. So batteries have a key part of moving our renewable efforts into the future, and we are confident the vanadium flow batteries are going to be a very substantial part of that.
Well, thank you for sharing that real-world example. It's important for people to understand. I think we've talked through a lot of important issues. I think we've given the audience a clear picture here of why vanadium flow and long-duration batteries are an important part of the picture. And so I hope the audience will consider giving you a call or looking you up on Invinity, INVINITY.com, and potentially partnering on a project.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. I've enjoyed our time.
I have enjoyed the conversation, Shane. Thank you so much.
Copyright Troutman Pepperlock, LLP. These recorded materials are designed for educational purposes only. This podcast is not legal advice and does not create an attorney-client relationship. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individual participants. Troutman does not make any representations or warranties, expressed or implied, regarding the contents of this podcast. Information on previous case results does not guarantee a similar future result. Users of this podcast may save and use the podcast only for personal or other non-commercial educational purposes. No other use, including without limitation, reproduction, retransmission, or editing of this podcast may be made without the prior written permission of Troutman Pepper Locke. If you have any questions, please contact us at troutman.com.